and you have Mr. Cottle with you, is that correct?
Maybe could be coming through via a video link.
And you've got two other people up on the screen.
Oh no, they're not with her.
They're not there enough. I can't read the names, unfortunately.
Behind you might see.
Oh, no, that's later. So we're waiting for you, Mr. Cottle, to arrive.
No, he's up there.
On screen. Is he up there?
Yes, I've joined remotely today.
Oh, there he is. Okay, well,
Good morning.
morning.
And can we ask everyone else to turn off their cameras, please? Turn off their cameras and stay on mute, apart from Mr. Cottle.
And does Mr. Cottle have a camera?
And Mr. Cottle, if you could turn your camera on. Oh,
Sure. Yeah, sorry, my computer was doing a restart, so I'm on my phone, but I do have a camera on my phone, so I'll turn that on.
no. Mr. Partington, sorry, can you just turn off your camera, please? Mr. Partington, sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, maybe we just box on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll let him know. Sorry, we're just trying to let him know.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kemp, we're in your hands now. Good morning.
Thanks, Mr. Chair panel. Yeah, so I'm here today representing myself, my wife.
Please feel free to sit. Okay. Good.
Not like Charlie Clark, who can remember everything just sitting down. Such a brilliant man. So on behalf of myself, my wife, and Ernie Cotton, Ernie's going into, shall we say, chip in partway through the presentation. As per you've already seen and read my submissions and my further submissions and my just a rebuttal. There's 4 points there. There's the sports grounds, the total rezoning, there's the housing, there's housing rezoning request along with, and finally the Kerikeri-Waipapa Spatial Plan. In relation to the sports grounds, that has been recommended within the 15D hearings report to be retained. So unless there's questions on that, I won't give any further discussion on that particular issue. The second one dealt with the Waitotra Road rezonings. In terms of the rezoning request, just looking through the hearing report, it's probably about 15, 20 at the most. Has the panel actually visited all of these properties involved in the rezoning request, or are they going to undertake those site visits as part of this process?
We haven't visited individual properties.
Will the committee be visiting these sites?
Potentially, if we think it's necessary, we're certainly willing to be persuaded that way.
Okay. I know Mr. Watson, Member Watson, is moving to our property, and I think Mr. McNally as well. I just think contextually, in terms of what you're looking at as part of the district plan, time out to review those sites is actually required. It's very easy to sit in these four walls and make decisions. And it's once you actually get outside and see the realities of particular properties, justifications, how they sit within the area in relation to Kerikeri-Waipapa. You need to get all those synchronized all together at once, not just sort of sit behind the written words and the reports that are presented to you. And I was
just going to say, are there any? I mean, there are quite a number of properties. Is there just a particular number of properties? Is it your property? Or is it all the properties on one? I mean, obviously we.
No. What I'm looking at in terms of rezoning requests, I think they've got about 10, 15 within Waipapa. Yes. Very small self-contained area.
Yes.
Take the time out and go and visit them, not the individual properties themselves, but the context of the rezoning sort.
Oh, I understand that.
So you've actually got the ability to see the interrelationship between the request.
I think all of us are quite familiar with Waitotra Road and that environment, and obviously we have regard to that with other submissions, particularly next week. It was really if there was an individual site that you think we need to get onto in order to understand some of the merits of your presentation, then we're open to that.
Yeah. So in terms of Waitotra Drive, they're very similar in terms of many ways. We've got the magnolia trees down the road. You've got just like residential sites inside of it. It's Waitoka Drive is actually quite unique because unless you knew it was there, you wouldn't actually see it. You can't see it from State Highway 10. You can't actually see it from Upper Road by reason of the trees, but also the disjoint between the actual formation of the lots and that of. So in terms of the rezoning, there's probably three factors that come into that. One is the flooding, one is the NES, and one is the spatial plan, as far as the reporting plan is put forward. In regard to the flooding, I've given to you excerpts, and I've actually given in my original submissions a copy of the resource consent application that undertook all of the remedial mitigation works, part and parcel that was co-joint to the Kerikeri, the sport group, shall we say. So there was a substantial amount of money and time spent in terms of putting in stop banks, floodgates, some remodeling and recontouring. There were new drains put in, which has actually significantly changed the water pattern, the water management system that's actually flows through this area. I see the NRC is saying in a later correspondence that no, it's still 1/100. We haven't actually worked out the ideas of what is actually achieved. Well, in my mind, if you are moving ahead and spending, say, $300,000-400,000 to put in stop banks and floodgates, you must know what the remedial action will produce at the end of the day. You don't just do the work and assume and hope it's going to work. So I'm not an engineer, but I can tell you in terms of what I've seen since the stop banks have been put in, and Mr. Troll can confirm that, the water that comes from the sports ground through to Waitoka Drive has significantly diminished. One of the main reasons for that too has been that the sports grounds have now been levelled. They have been recontured to take the water through to stream, which in its own right has actually been upgraded and improved. So the shift of water towards Waitoka Drive has actually been well and truly shifted. The possibilities of floodings along the Waitoka Drive properties, as I said in my evidence, is exacerbated by the lack of maintenance and council in terms of there are open drain swales which are not cleared, or that does is full of debris and weeds and just holds the water back. By example, once NRC did the drain adjoining 115 Waitoka Drive, the water just flows through. There was no impediment that actually holds the storm coming back. So in my view, there is the opportunity here of saying that yes, you can allow intensification on Waitoka Drive. You can do that through a number of ways, through mounding, or you can do it in terms of raising minimum floor levels. But the reality is it's only water. Water can go through a building, you just clean it out and you go back to your property. By example, we were in Vietnam 7 years ago, we went to a restaurant, we walked out, we came back from a canoe. Because in the time of 3 to 4 hours of having a meal, the water rose 3.5 metres. So you pick the stuff up and take it back down. There's no human life involved in those sort of situations. So so contextually there is the ability to do it, and more recently, development within flood-prone areas can be given consent. There's those 3 new commercial buildings that have been established on the Thai restaurant. But what is interesting too on that one, we decided to put in a stop bank, which actually stops the normal flow of the river going down Kerikeri River. So all that's going to do is actually hold the river back rather than flowing through. In terms of the soils, it's currently W3, sorry, S3W. W's for water. Not because of the floods, it's a high water level. We can dig a hole at our place in the middle of summer, probably go down a foot, you're going to hit water. Because there is a perched area of hard sand, or sandstone, underneath the ground. That water perched for such a long time. And as I said in my evidence of my rebuttal, is that the Kerikeri sports grounds, when they built that garden, there was just too much water, they could not do anything because it's just basically sitting there. The MPS is going to change. It's not a matter of if, it's a question of when. And so, in my view, that would not be, in my mind, a reason to actually inhibit the rezoning. Not going ahead. And the last one is the spatial plan, which I'll come to in my evidence. I might actually ask Mr. Cottle, who's got some comments he might want to make. Penny, do you want to make some comments?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff, and good morning to you all. Appreciate what you've been saying, and from the owner's perspective, we own 120 Waitotra Drive and have lived there for 10 years.
Mr. Cottle,
Sorry.
Cottle, the chair
Yes.
here, it would be nice if we could see you. So could you turn your camera on?
Oh, I'm sorry, I can see myself at my end. Let's try again.
It looks like it was just your background, but your actual face has gone. You were there before though.
I think your
Okay.
background,
All right, we can get rid of that.
just seeing a wall with a green
Yeah,
eel.
I can actually see the screen on my end. I'm sorry about that. I'll just do what I can. See if I can make a change here. It's all showing correctly.
It's not the little slider icon at the top of your laptop, not icon. There's a little
No.
switch.
I know what you mean. It's
Sorry.
sorry.
No, it's still just a background.
Hmm.
Yeah, everything's good.
Close to the camera.
Yeah, come closer. Bring your face closer, perhaps.
I can actually, at my end, I can see it. It's just, perhaps I'll just quickly rejoin. Apologies.
Okay.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right.
What
I'm sorry. Technical glitch. Yes. All right. So I just started saying, yes, we purchased 120 Waitotra Drive and have lived there for 10 years, my wife and I, and have a couple of children. And just recently, also bought lot 6, which is about halfway down the road on the other side, and plan to build our future home there. Our objective is quite simple. We're seeking rezoning to allow subdivision, and I understand from our observation, we're not a planner, but from what we've looked into, that the reasons for it not being rezoned or considered for rezoning so far is primarily from a perspective of flood risk and also the soil types. And I hope that we've been able to rightly convey how, I would say, overwhelmingly the evidence in the report showing that those aren't a current issue. And I guess my simple question is, what would be standing in the way, or what would be obstructing considering this for rezoning? We certainly want to see progression in the town as well, and I think this would be one element of progression in the town without having detrimental effects. So I guess that's I know we could go into detail of the reasons for thinking or saying that the flooding is not a valid issue relating to rezoning and also the soil types, but that's my simple couple of words for this morning.
Okay, thank you. Back to you, Mr. King. I think we'll ask questions at the end of the presentations.
Thanks,
Okay.
Okay. So, and in terms, just to bring that to a conclusion, that part about zoning, in my rebuttal, should we say, I've listed and gone through the criteria out of, I think it's minute 14, which have been brought into the report, and just sort of assess those each individually and look at to the applicability otherwise and how the rezoning would fit within the scheme of those items that are identified in that. The third item is the Housing New Zealand medium density housing zoning proposed over a large area of Kerikeri town centre. Unless I'm mistaken, this is the only medium density zone proposed in the far north. Hasn't been applied to many other town centres in the district. And we've lived there since in Kerikeri since 1991. The implications of that document, as I've said, it's sort of a brand new world in terms of what's proposed, what we're trying to put forward. It will change the dynamics, the feel, the environment, which is Kerikeri. I've just seen on Facebook there's been some through the local Kerikeri, our Kerikeri, put up some impressions of 2 or 3 story buildings, Main Street. That's fine. The one of my legacies is the getting consent from the John Butler Centre. It's 12 metres high. That went through for roaring of public discontent in terms of allowing such a tall building in Kerikeri. Problem was it was permitted 12 metre height. It was allowed. The only other tall building in Kerikeri at that time was the Turner Centre, was actually higher than the centre. And over time, there have been more buildings coming into Kerikeri, generally 2 level, 3 no. They are associated with the aged care market and not associated with providing housing, a high density housing. And the only new ones are those that have been developed by Housing New Zealand Park Road. Prior to that, there is one development that allowed for a multi-storey, it's only 2 stories high, apartments in Kerikeri, and that comes off Jacaranda. It's like Honeyhickey Road. And it's a very secluded block, 12 units, own your own. But other than that, there's really nothing in terms of framework or scale that Housing New Zealand wants to report. One of the thrusts of their arguments, as I've said in my evidence, is that as a government agency, they didn't like the rules. So saying that the rules were in place under the operative plan that allowed for developments that they wanted. It didn't preclude the ability of building housing, high density housing. In the commercial zone, the only real rule that stopped you was a noise attenuation. That was it. Other than that, you could build it. Just go ahead and build it. What was the issue was the process they had to go through by reason that they could not fit the rules to fit their package of what they wanted to build. So, in my mind, their cast was, well, I can't build what I want as a right. Let's change the rules. And this is really what I've seen being put forward here. It's like someone say to council, well, look, I want to build a nuclear plant in far north. Can you change the rules so it can happen? Would the council go with that or not? Probably not, I don't know. But in terms of this submission, it is a leap of faith, huge jump forward. And what's happened in terms of this report was that the council planners have just gone, yep, great idea, we're going to adopt it. We're going to go ahead with this idea. By reason that it links into the spatial plan. What I now find interesting, and I think AK knows, that housing firm is not turning up to present evidence to support their submission. As a proponent of such a large scheme, one would have thought we would have taken time to be in front of this panel. Said, this is the reasons why we need to do this. These are the pluses, these are the minuses that will associate with such a development. And as I said in my evidence again, there's no section 32 notices. The panel has been consistent to date in asking what I would call new zones or zones not greater of an intent not currently in the plan. Going to farms, farm of holdings, no pua, what any treaty grounds. We've actually gone to some depth and asked those submitters, look, we need more detail to actually know what you're trying to achieve. Why can't we use it in place? This is a situation where I haven't seen it happen. So I think in terms of some consistency to bring in, and it is a new zone, it was not advertised in the plan. Some consistency in terms of treatment should also be provided to Housing New Zealand. One of the mantras that came through on the submission was to make housing more affordable. At the moment, we can buy a brand new 3-bedroom house in Kerikeri for 69,000. 695,000, thank you, house land package. You won't be able to build a 2-bedroom, 3-storey accommodation unit in Kerikeri for that price. Realities are such that a ground floor building is $4,500 a square metre. The more you go up, the costs increase, the land costs. And as I said in my evidence, the only way you can distribute land costs and reduce that is for the landowner to say, oh, great, let's put up some multi-unit residential development. History has proved that in Wales, there's no appetite for that sort of development to take place in Kerikeri. What is occurring? Single-storey townhouses. That's what is occurring in Kerikeri. This leads into the spatial plan being notified, which is now being brought before the panel. Part of the ethos on the spatial plan was to, again, picking up on what Housing New Zealand is trying to achieve, is to create a densification of Kerikeri. They want to concentrate that on Kerikeri. Turning to process. The proposed district plan has been evolving over the last 4 or 5 years. I've notified in 2022. After that point, council decided, right, we're going to try and create some sort of structure for Kerikeri. Yep, it needs it. This will be probably option number 4 there. So it went about that after the close of submissions, after the close of further submissions, and then quickly adopted this spatial plan. And is now putting this document in front of you, the hearings panel, and saying, this is what we want. I agree that the spatial plan is one document that can be incorporated in your decision-making process. The spatial plan hasn't even gone through the special consulate process under the government in terms of giving it some bodies, some feel, and some weight. There's nothing on that at all. What you've ended up with is a document that's gone through a process. Yes, unless I'm mistaken, the average age of the recipients was 55 plus. And now the structured plan is being used by reporting planners as the blueprint for all the most of the recommendations I've seen coming through around the Kerikeri-Waipapa here. It doesn't fit the narrative. Sorry, it's not approved. That, in my mind, is taking away the openness, the transparency on this whole process. You have, as I said here again, you've taken away the ability for people who would not have got involved in the process by reason of the district plan is notified Then they see the structure, the spatial plan, too late. You can't come in. You can't take any position on the structure plan because you weren't originally submitted and you weren't the furthest submitted in the process. I'm not saying there's hundreds of people out there, but all you need is one to say, look, I'm sorry, that's not fair. I didn't anticipate this proposed district plan to end up with this evolution by reason of the spatial plan. Because it was never brought forward as part of the proposed district plan process. The proposed district plan itself never used the section 30, has got no section 32 analysis of the spatial plan within the reporting documents. So you, as I said to you, you've been placed in a pretty awkward position in terms of being given a document to put weight on, because it's been recently produced, but at the same time trying to balance the interests of all those parties that are involved in the proposed issue. So in terms of the process, as I said in paragraph 37 of my the options were adopting the spatial plan before the proposed plan was notified. Sorry, that's gone, couldn't happen. Notifying the variation of the proposed district plan that was potentially possible and available, and that would allow any party to then become involved, but also those existing submitters to be in a position of giving time and benefit of being able to gather information, look at the thing that's coming through. You could apply no weight to the spatial plan, go ahead making decisions, and then issue your decisions and then notify variation to bring in the elements and those of that part of the spatial plan into the document. That's costly, it's timely, but as I said before, and as I've said in my evidence, you've got to balance out the role of being fair and equitable for people who want to get involved in the process at the end of the day. I will add that one of our properties, when the housing service submission was put in, it incorporated our property, but the refined boundary line in terms of what's recommended in the planner's report, it has excluded our property and other properties around us. But that still doesn't remove my interest within the Kerikeri community, per se, city. I suppose I'll probably come back to page 20 of my evidence, where looking at the spatial plan, and I've listed 7 questions, which may or may not be helpful in terms of looking at the spatial plan. And just look at the consequences and the side effects that would be associated with it. I've asked communities like Kerikeri to have a second. Cambridge, Morrinsville, Te Amutu, Tikawara, Kerikeri-Waipapa, towns similar size, similar scale, similar interests, similar tension, not saying tensions, but similar characteristics, likely towards in that sort of area. What we are talking about in terms of what happened here. And what is quite key too in terms of the spatial plan is looking at, if you're really going to do an analysis in terms of the effect of implementing that's proposed vis-a-vis through housing resilience submission and now the spatial plan, you've got to say to yourself, well, okay, who's actually undertaking these developments? Is it government agencies, NGOs? How many of those are private developments? And of those infill developments, how many are rentals? How many are by your own? And then in terms of average cost, reality, a bit of a reality check. You can't really buy anything under $700,000. And if you're trying to bring people to Kerikeri, which is one of the things we're trying to do, you've got to have some attraction for them. If you live in Auckland, why would you come to Kerikeri to go in another 3-bedroom walk-up, step-up building? If you're a young family, looking for open space, may not be a big house, open space around just for kids to go out and play. You're not going to get that in this type of development as proposed. A good example in terms of being effective and a response to what's required in terms of housing is the redevelopment of the RSA site, the cocoa companies associated with that. That was a really good design because you had they had a base, they've got a base there, and they are multifunctional in terms of their services to the people, which is great. And so they saw the opportunity of putting in place housing accommodation for those in need with a direct response and a direct care element being provided. So unless I'm mistaken, the occupants were in need of either daily and weekly care, and they got it immediately from the building next door. It's a kind of relationship. That's a good example. Hope's built, and it fitted really well. The other question I had here is the question of infrastructure. I think the districts had many reports in terms of infrastructure, what condition it's in, what needs upgrading, what needs to be improved. One of the biggest problems they had was actually locating it, because a lot of infrastructure was not known. Nobody knew where it was. Staff had lifted it, but the records and systems may have improved. But unfortunately, you can keep on making reports, but you've got to put some money into it to get the development. And in terms of infrastructure in Kerikeri, I can foresee if this sort of infill development does proceed on the spatial plan, that yes, you can connect, you have to wait 5 years. We can't put out a carrot for someone to actually say, come to our town and develop it, then at the same time say, well, look, can we just wait for the carrot to grow before you can actually start to build? Because if you want people to invest, you've got to have an infrastructure in place. As I said, a need in terms of making it happen, what is the timelines? If people don't want to build it in full, how are you going to stop them? It's not being cynical, but you could actually have a rule. Prohibited activity is any development that is less than the controlled activity subjects. If you want to force people into developing their properties in the manner and the regime you think you're going to achieve in this. What's the exposure to council in terms of if they do put the infrastructure in and the landowners say, as I've mentioned in my evidence, council can do everything in the world to make something happen. It's only the landowners that own that land that are going to make it. And this could be an example where council could invest a lot of money in the infrastructure, get it upgrading, but there is no appetite for development to take place. What development does take place, heading infill, as I said, historically, it's single-story townhouse developments in very little area. And the last one I put it there, if you're going to provide incentives for infilling, what incentives are you going to provide for other developments taking place? Just thinking back to the structure plan itself in terms of, that's not too old to be involved in planning for many years, but a good example, I worked in Tauranga City 73. They had a district scheme, and their district scheme in the lots of this Gavin Lehman reporter, and planners at the time for the council. They embarked on a process of concentrating all their commercial development in the town centre. It didn't allow any development river development along what's known as Cameron. They achieved it all right, but now what you've ended up with is a cold offices. There is no life, there's no vibrancy, there is nothing in that town centre now. Because everything has said, no, it's not working for us. And that's a reflection of how communities work. If it doesn't feel right and livable, people will go elsewhere. And that's why we're seeing all this massive growth occurring in large parts of town. One of the items I saw in the spatial plan, if you're going to do spatial plan, it's got to be integrated, transport and all the rest. So all we've actually done in the spatial plan is put all our development on the or State Highway 10 onto Kerikeri Road. So you're going to load Kerikeri Road up here. Where's the traffic going to go? Spatial plan, in my mind, would have actually integrated the Waitland Roads link, the Maranui Drive, the Hall Road, actually put down what council's actually thinking, like the ring road that's going to go around the town centre. Yeah, it's just going to divert traffic. It doesn't actually achieve anything at the end of the day. The real road is Kerikeri Road, and there should be some forward planning in terms of collaborative developments taking place. We're in, like I said, involved in WA and the Malaga Industrial Estate. There are 25 land owners. Council got together in the road, said, right, we're in development estate. You go there now, it's one of the largest industrial estates in Perth. And everything's being coordinated, the road end services and the like. That's encouraging and actually giving some forward direction to landowners to say, look, we want to help you with development because what you do actually helps us. We need rate changes, we need people to come to the district. Because we've only got 75,000, which is nothing in terms of what the student can actually afford. So as I've said, I may be humorous, but you've got to have a bit of humour to this sort of stuff. It's a bit of reality check. Not sure whether the planners actually know what to purchase and what's important. So yes, overall, I think that there is reasonable grounds. I say there's more than reasonable grounds to allow the rezoning by Waitotra Drive. There's a strong reason to put aside the request of Housing New Zealand for this medium use zone. And in terms of the Kerikeri-Waipapa Spatial Plan, I believe minimal action given to that document. And that if councils are of the mind that they want to move forward in that development, they promote it through a plan change or review. It'll be a plan change, not a variation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm assuming you're giving this evidence as a resident and ratepayer, not as a planner. Is that correct? That gave you the license to traverse a number of areas of expertise. And it must have been fun to not be constrained by the code of conduct for once back. It must have been, yeah, I acknowledge that it's not expert evidence. It's evidence as an owner of a property, correct?
No,
Would you want us to treat the statement as expert evidence?
there's no reason why I cannot. I've actually agreed to abide by the.
Well, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, I've been.
Sometimes when planners give evidence as property owners, you know, they can broaden the scope of what they say.
Well, no, sorry. I've had that debate before, and I'll be honest, I find it a bit demeaning. I've been a planner for 53 years, and from my point of view, I'm giving you my opinion, whether or not I'm a landowner or not. I actually find it hurtful.
Well,
My evidence.
also going to be who's intended, so
My evidence.
I just wanted to clarify whether you're giving us the.
Well, I've made it very clear in my evidence. I have confirmed compliance with code of conduct. And I have limited, I have not gone beyond my scope where I have noted. I've been respectful with my evidence. I haven't challenged anyone. I'm not going to get into the statutory background of what we're doing in terms of the RMA. What I'm doing is presenting to you what I see as a plan, in terms of what the council is doing through the district planning process.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. You've referred to this, well, I think your evidence you've said, lack of section 32 analysis from council officers with regards to the medium density zone and medium density residential zone. So does that also apply to the town centre zone as well?
I didn't make submission on that thing.
Okay, so your evidence isn't, you've got no issue with the town centre zone as a proposed zone or no position. Okay. Have you read the council evidence and supporting documents for hearing 14?
That's the.
Residential zone, urban zones?
Yes, I've read, look, I haven't read all the documents, there's just too many.
So in that material was expert evidence from an urban designer in relation to the medium density residential zone. There was expert evidence from Mr. McRae, the council's consultant economist, as well as Matthew Lindberg on urban design matters as well. And a technical memo from market economics. So, and I think all of those statements did refer to section 32. I was wondering if you had regard to that evidence as well, because my understanding is that that was the evidential basis for the two new zones. So that was introduced in the hearing. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but that was introduced in hearing 14. And then the spatial extent of those zones were then released through hearing 15D. That's to be determined next week.
Correct. So are you saying that the medium density housing was part of the proposal?
It's a zone introduced through hearing 14.
And introduced by?
I think I'm asking you the questions. No, you're asking me.
No, I'm asking if it was introduced. Who introduced it?
It was introduced in response to submissions.
Which included Kangaroo, New Zealand.
Yes, I think so. Is that clear?
So, but again, in terms of that, normally a section 32 analysis is done part and parcel proposals.
So you're saying the introduction of the new zone is out of scope?
It can be, yes. I think in this case, yes, it's quite a dramatic change.
Yeah, I accept all of those things, but it was clearly a relief by Kaingaora in their primary submission. But there should be a new, and they set out, there should be a new zone, and they set out all the things that they thought should be in that zone. Council officers, having regard to other things such as the PSUD and their spatial planning process, use that as this primary submission to recommend a new zone. So
I can acknowledge that.
I don't think that's I acknowledge that it wasn't notified in the plan, and obviously, but that's the process that has been put to us. So my question to you is, is that within scope?
Well, if it was done as part of the relief, it will be within scope. The question begs then is the scale of what's proposed of such that it tips the point of saying, oh, it's too big in terms of what this place is doing to actually fit it through this process. Should we not go back and revisit it through our community? There's another one.
I understand. I understand that.
Yeah. And in terms of the question of the other reports, yes, they're experts in their own field. I can't dispute that.
Sure. But you do accept on that basic level that there has been a section 32 analysis behind those two zones.
I have to accept, yes, it was. So
they need to determine how adequate they are, but they certainly are there and an evidence, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I think in terms of where you're heading, there is the ability for you to actually say yes, it was, and to move forward. And in terms of this expert, that's their opinion. My opinion, having looked at the community, this is what I see, this is what I feel.
Sure.
And that's what I think there's a big divergence between us in terms of notwithstanding on an urban plan and what an engineer or something like that. Just living on the street and just seeing what's happening around you.
Sure. And are you aware of minute 7 that we released as after hearing 1? I'm sorry, it's not, and this is not, it's not like it's not like
No,
a quiz.
you'd have to invite me, sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, at hearing 1, we were presented with a number of expert evidence. One was stating that Kerikeri met the test for an urban environment under the NPSUD, and therefore, we asked the question, but it was an obvious answer. If one urban environment is an urban environment, then the district is an urban environment. And so I think there's a linkage between, we sent out that minute to ask council, please consider that evidence because that potentially has quite a lot of implications to the hearings that are going to follow. And that has been accepted that because Kerikeri is an urban environment, the district is 3 urban environment. So that's had some bearing, I think, on some of these changes. And the other thing that came out of that was a request from a number of submitters that there needed to be commercial zone. And so we put that in minute 1 to say council officers have regard to this thinking too. And so that by the time we get to the commercial zone section, we'll have a steer as to whether we need another commercial zone. And that, I believe, is the genesis of the town centres. Was you aware of how those things have progressed?
Not all, but I'll be honest and say no, because there's a lot coming through.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the keyboard every day.
Yeah,
It's just to go back to the question on tier 3. I think Mr. Tinder said that Kerikeri was not tier 3.
Can I answer that? Yeah, at hearing 1, we said it.
Hearing 1, we said that.
Hearing 1, and then we changed our position and released
So I'll just bridge that gap for you, Mr. Kemp. So yes, that was council's evidence. That was that we don't think that Kerikeri was. And then we had expert planning and economic evidence that created another that presented expert evidence to further questions and demonstrate that it probably was. That was the genesis of our minute 7, which is, well, we think there is some credible evidence here. We'd like you to go away and potentially engage with those experts and come up with an opinion as to whether we are or not. I think the spatial planning exercise helped the council in determining that. And so by the time we had, I think it's hearing 14 report, the first mention of tier 3 urban environment, was that?
That's correct.
That's correct. So between hearing 1 and hearing 14, that's when it happened. So does that help your understanding?
It does help.
Context?
It does help in terms of where it was heading.
So we've been aware of these things, from a lot of these things hearing 1, and council officers have responded to our minutes and have been working away at these matters, for some time. So I really don't think it really is just Kaingaroa showing up and saying give us a new zone. I think there were a lot of other factors there. It was just that was a very specific submission seeking that zone and suggesting even provisions. I think they sort of put in the medium density residential provisions as part of the submission.
It was a whole zone. It was a whole zone.
Yeah. And you'll note that council didn't follow that they came up with their own bespoke. So I just thought there is a question in there somewhere. But I was just wanting to just sort of perhaps help you understand the context, because I think you said there hasn't been much in the terms of justification.
Well, yeah, and I think
you
have the benefit of hearing the evidence.
Yes.
So I put forward what I've seen in terms of how the game's played. And so, yes, if there is information that I may not have or omitted to read or whatever, And there is the in scope. Again, it's for you to make that final decision. So if you're waiting, sits with you.
Again, it wasn't meant to be a criticism, it was just meant to help. So if you were aware of these things, that might understand where you think there might be a lack of information.
Well, yeah, I suppose it's a question of what is information.
Sure.
And what that is. Yeah. But as I said, I think my underlying thrust in terms of the of the spatial plan is it hasn't really been tested.
Yeah, well, thank you for your comments on the spatial plan. Obviously, we've had nothing to do with that. It followed its own process.
Yes.
It has been adopted by council, and it is something that we will have to have regard to. We accept that there is a range of opinion as to how much regard that should be. And we've had numerous submissions to date giving us advice as to how much regard to have to it. And there's arguments on both sides.
Yes.
So we're certainly cognizant of that. Yeah, but we are conscious that it is a process that has been followed that we nonetheless have to have regard to.
As I said, you're in a bit of a position in some ways. It would have been good if it was out there before, but unfortunately it's not.
I'll ask you quite a specific question. We've had, you're not the first person to see evidence on Waitoto Road. Percy. Yeah, and I put it's in order to sort of put your relief into a nutshell. This question of defendable boundaries, I think you've acknowledged that is an appropriate thing where it's appropriately done. At the moment, it would appear that the defendable boundary is the stream, but you're wanting to lift it up past Waitoto Road and above the properties on either side.
No, my submission, our submission, not our submission, only related to those properties which fronted Waitoto Road.
Okay, so would the Waitoto Road be the boundary there?
Well, yes, that's all it was. Yes, all we were looking at was the properties that were fronting Waitoto Road.
Right, but there are properties either side of Waitoto Road, right?
Yes, that was another submission which I attached to my reply by Mr. Brian Hutchins. He wanted, because he lives on Waipapa Road, and he wanted all the properties encapsulated by Waitoto Drive, Waipapa Road, State Highway 10, and Sports Ground. Those are joined, excluding those that were in this new commercial type zone. So our submission didn't include those.
Right.
So it's only those that were
Either side of
either side of Waitoto Drive.
Yeah.
About 36.
Yes. Yes. Okay, no, I get that now.
Yeah. So the boundary would be, in terms of the overall request, is a definable boundary created by the river, Waipapa Road, and then there's other zonings.
Okay, great. I'll see if the other commissioners have some questions for you. Steve?
No.
I had about flood zones.
Yep.
Your original submission included the flood maps as well.
Yes, there was two sets, the ones from the NRC.
Yeah.
And council's making 2007.
Yeah.
And there's a vast discrepancy between the two.
Yes, so you've put in your evidence about the works and you've spoken about it today as well, that were done on the sports ground, but it hasn't been mapped by NRC as yet. We've also been asking the question in the context of Waipapa about when the NRC are going to do more flood protection works there.
I can fill you in that Thursday. We will know.
Yes, so there you go. So hopefully we'll have more information imminently. But you note as well that not all of the sites are covered by the flood zone. There's only a portion. So you're saying in terms of site suitability, it can still be done outside.
In terms of 100, yes, you can still build on the sites, smaller. You can build. The 150 would make it much more land to actually develop. So yeah, so in terms of the flood mapping, like the spatial plan, I just said, well, it's 1 of 100 years gone, it can't be developed. As I said, the evidence, it would be good for the reporting person on your hazard maps to, as I said, ground truth, to see what's happening in the area rather than just relying on the maps coming out. To see where these areas are, has it changed in terms of stop process, new development taking place, and any redirection taking place.
Chair, I can just update, and more for our reporting staff than anyone else, but I'm on the Kerikeri-Waipapa Flood Committee, and the LiDAR has been redone by Regional Council. We'll know more about that Thursday. There's two issues that are of real concern. Is the increase in impervial surfaces in the industrial area of Waipapa. And for those who don't know, the overland flow path is the Kahikatoa Road, which is the main entrance into the Waipapa subdivision, Stowaway 10, through the sports field and wherever it ends up, the sports field of Ponding area. So that update, that's real concern, and there's talk of retention dams. So there's a lot of stuff in play here, but that most of the locals right know about, including our staff.
All right. No, that's a Kerikeri Drive. That's the main floodway. In terms of when it does flood, that it's going to go through.
It comes out over 10. Go and have a look. It's probably still flooded right now. The end of Kahikatoa Road. It's not working. Go and have a look. Next time it rains, it floods. I can send you a photo. Anyway, carry on.
He has sent me a photo.
I think there was a question.
No, it was just an update for a start.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or clarifications from the council officers?
I probably have some clarification for the panel, but not of the witness, not of the submitter. I can confirm that council did use actually a bespoke special consultative procedure to proceed with the spatial plan. And when I say bespoke, we went for the bigger option in terms of multiple submissions and hearings that is not necessarily always required for a special consultative procedure. That delayed our ability to respond to minute 7, but the reason for it was to make sure that we had a very clear community support and robust option with robust evidence and information supporting it. Bringing that back, the spatial plan didn't inform the scope of submissions. In fact, I would argue that the district plan, the PDP, highlighted some areas which the community supported through that spatial plan process that were therefore included. So I don't think you could argue with the recommendations that we've made that A, they're either out of scope, or B, haven't been thoroughly discussed and tested with either the community or the facts of evidence.
Okay, is that consultation procedure summarised in the document, or?
I'll see if I can find that for you, Mr. Chair.
I'm just wondering if that is part of the document or in a supporting document, maybe just to keep. We might want to read.
Perhaps it's summarised in Mr. Rubin's evidence. We'll go through that, I think.
Okay, well, maybe you could include it in the writing reply, because I think that might clarify some of your questions. Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. We've got no questions for you, Mr. Cottle. Nice to see you're still there. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much, Mr. Kent, for your evidence.
Would it be possible to ask, sorry to interrupt, is it possible to ask just 1 or 2 questions from my side?
So who do you want to ask questions of? Usually it's us asking you questions. So who do you want to ask a question of? And any questions need to come through me.
Yeah, I think it's for the planners, I would say. I guess I did ask the question when I was speaking earlier, and I'd just be interested to know if there was a response that you could give now, it being what would be the reason or reasons for not rezoning Waitotara Drive to be consistent with the surrounding areas in particular?
I think I could answer that question. That's our decision. But I think also too is what I'd probably point you to is the hearing report. Do you have that? Have you looked at that, Mr. Connell?
The hearing report,
Yeah.
which
hearing report.
reference?
Yes.
The 15C?
Yes, the 15C hearing report. I know it's a very long report, but I think if you were to look at paragraph 196 onwards, I think that sets out the council's response to the zoning request. That's certainly the thing that I've read and understood to be the lion's share of that reasoning. So again, hearing report 15C,
Yes.
rural. Hearing report 15C, rural, paragraphs 196 onwards. There's about, there's paragraph 196 and it goes all the way to G.
Yes. Thank
I
you.
think that deals with the council officer's response to the merits of your zoning request.
Sure.
Council, that'll be a summary.
That's fair.
Okay, so council officer just said, yes, that's where we've set out our reason.
Sure. Thank you. I will do that. And the other question was just, do you agree that Waitotra Drive is left as essentially peculiar zoning in the proposed plan when considering adjacent zoning and roads?
Not sure I understand that question.
As in Waipapa Road, surrounding areas, none of them have the same zoning as Waitotra Drive in the proposed plan?
Those are all matters that we're going to have to decide on as part of these submissions we hear, sir. So you need to wait till the decisions come or the recommendations we make to council.
Okay.
I think Commissioner Watson summed up the response very well. So yes, we're going to be taking all these matters into consideration. And we've got lots more evidence to hear on these matters too.
I understand, appreciate it.
Okay, well, thanks very much for your attendance, your evidence, answers to our questions. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Partington. And next, aren't they?
Correct.
Got it, Mr.
Good.
Partington?
Good
Just
morning.
Yes.
Yes, Morena for 2 minutes. Okay, so you are here also with Jackie Partington, or is it just yourself today?
No, I have a number of residents on the call, including my wife, Jackie, but other residents of Whārawai, Ahipara.
Okay. Right, well, we were in your hands.
Thank you kindly. I have a number of talking points that I'll read through and hopefully keep it fairly brisk. Our responses in regard to the 15C reasoning report, and firstly, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I do have the consent of the owners to represent them, express our concerns, and to address council's response to our rezoning request for Whārawai, Ahipara. This is an existing single residential subdivision with inappropriate mixed zoning that creates a regulatory inequality. Council has acknowledged this in their statements and that it fails to reflect the existing residential development and appears to be an oversight. We are seeking you to correct this planning anomaly by providing a consistent residential zoning of our specific subdivision. There are three main concerns that have been detailed in the 3 paragraphs from the reasoning report. The first is the access and hazard concerns. Council has stated that access constraints due to hazards don't support rezoning. Our response is that These hazards exist regardless of what we're zoned, and a change from general or rural production doesn't make them disappear, nor will it change if we move to a residential zoning. We have 8 houses already constructed with people living there on a day-to-day basis, acknowledging the 100-year hazards on a daily basis. Several of the lots within our subdivision are zoned residential and face identical hazard exposure. And in fact, those three residential lots sit within the 100-year zone. Our request is outside of the current hazard. The council's hazard overlays are designed to manage these risks, which is an appropriate planning tool. However, we don't feel it's an appropriate zoning tool. Moving from general coastal to rural production doesn't solve the hazard. It just creates a regulatory problem and overheads for the residents. 2, subdivision potential. And here's where I'd like to make a critical correction. Council states that the current lot sizes could create additional subdivision opportunities. Council's assumption is somewhat inaccurate, and allow me to just detail the subdivision potential. Our lots range from 393 to 1670 squares, and at the time of the individual's purchase, these lots were categorised within the general coastal zone. The general coastal zone requires a 6-hectare minimum for discretionary residential development, so that's 60,000 square metres. Our lots are 35 to 150 times smaller than the general coastal standards allow. This highlights our subdivision was never intended for general coastal use. It was designed as a residential from day one, and we believe the original developers were simply unable to complete this change. The current subdivision... Apologies, was that someone asking a question?
No, keep going. It was just, I think it was a chair clanging against the table.
No problem. Okay, the current subdivision caveats that all owners agree to at time of purchase does not specifically detail that they could not subdivide, primarily because of the aesthetic design and intent which are detailed within those caveats. It provides a guide to keep the subdivision scaled and appropriate. The actual subdivision potential for further development is virtually zero. Of the 21 lots in the subdivision, a move to residential zoning could technically allow only 3 lots to subdivide. Of those 3, 2 have significant topographical constraints, leaving just 1 section that could be subdivided. That specific property has already been developed with housing and is one of the previous that I mentioned earlier. Council's density concerns are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the practical application in our subdivision. Whilst not included in our proposal, if necessary, we could consider updating the subdivision caveats to include this constraint across those specific sections for any future owners. The third point is the insufficient evidence of demand for growth. There are 8 houses already built across the subdivision. That's approximately 40% occupancy in an established subdivision. The demand was established some 20 odd years ago. The developer invested heavily in reticulated wastewater and stormwater services at the time of the resource consent, recognised by council as a residential demand, not general coastal or production use. Portions of our subdivision are already zoned as residential. 3 of the lots are zoned residential. 3 of the lots are zoned mixed, being residential and coastal, and 15 are zoned general coastal. The owners are not asking for growth capacity. We're asking for zoning consistent within our own subdivision. The core issue is we've got a single subdivision with arbitrary zoning that creates a little bit of regulatory challenges. Some of the lots are zoned residential, whereas most are general coastal. It doesn't quite make planning sense to us that the lots closest to the beach are zoned residential zoning and lots further away were zoned as general coastal. It's the same subdivision, it has the same infrastructure, but with completely different rules on the same street. As a practical example, I personally need a resource consent for a driveway, but my neighbour in the same subdivision with residential zoning can install one as one of his permitted rights. Being moved to rural production would make this worse, going from needing consent for some activities to needing consent for almost everything. So in summary, we think that there's a zoning mismatch. Rural production is 40 hectare minimum lots. General coastal is 60 hectare minimum lots. Our actual lot ranges from 393 to 1670. The scale mismatch is staggering. Rural production requires lots 240 to 1,000 times larger than what we currently have. Council acknowledges we may meet urban rezoning criteria for the location, land use, subdivision pattern and infrastructure. We have reticulated services, residential lot sizes and established residential character. As I previously mentioned, part of our subdivision is already appropriately residentially zoned. I could refer back to the general coastal lots, however, in the core, we're talking about essentially the colour coding from general coastal to rural production. It's our belief that the original developers wouldn't have intended mixed zoning with general coasting compliance. It's physically impossible. We believe that the original developers who went broke simply didn't get a chance to complete the rezoning requirements for the subdivision. Council's own mixed zoning acknowledges this, which is why we have some in residential. So in closing, this is one subdivision with inappropriate mixed zoning that creates regulatory inequity. Our lot sizes are significantly smaller than general or rural coastal standards would provision for. Almost zero subdivision or increased demand potential, which is essentially impossible under the coastal rules. Part of our subdivision is already residential and we're simply asking for consistency. Council's own analysis shows we meet urban zoning criteria. We're not seeking special treatment. We're seeking equal treatment within our own subdivision. Council's subdivision concerns are based on a fundamental misunderstanding of the practical application of applying the residential zoning rules to our specific subdivision. Our lots could never be subdivided under general coastal or rural production standards. We're simply asking for the same residential zoning that our neighbours on the same street already have. This will correct a 15 to 20 year planning oversight and eliminate any arbitrary regulatory inequity. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That is quite a comprehensive submission. I don't think we have a copy. You look as if you were reading from a written statement. Yeah, I don't think we have a copy of that, but we certainly would like to have one. Are you able to give us a copy?
Most definitely.
Okay, if you could email that through to our hearing administrator, Alicia Kate, have you got her email address?
We do have her contact details.
Yeah, so that'd be great. So we'd like to, obviously, when we deliberate on this matter, we'd like to have, if you have that as a written statement, we'd like to have that to hand.
Definitely.
Great. No, thank you very much. So as I take, I mean, I've been looking at you were seeing me twiddling away on my computer while you were reading your evidence. That was because I'm looking at the planning map of where your property is in Ahipara, right?
Yes, correct.
It looks to me that like the first 3 or 4 sites are zoned residential and then it's a cul-de-sac. And you're talking about like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties sort of around the southern end of the road around the head of the cul-de-sac. Is that correct?
About the 5 properties at the southern end of the cul-de-sac are in the mixed zone, and the balance of the properties are in the deep southern zone. So essentially about the 10, 11 properties.
So when you say mixed zone, I'm not really sure what you mean.
Where the zone dissects a lot. So half of the lot is zoned as residential. The other half of the lot is zoned general coastal.
Sorry, you split zone.
I'm sorry. Yes, split zone.
Yeah. I thought you were
Thank you.
talking about some mixed residential zone.
No, I'm so sorry. Thank you for the correction.
No, thank you. I've caught up with you. Okay, no, I understand that. Now, so looking at the maps, those properties that are zoned general rural to the south, they are outside the coastal hazard zone. Is that right, council officers as well?
That's correct.
And I think the hearing report referred to them not being reticulated. Is that correct?
No, we do have reticulated services.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you've got water supply?
No, we don't have water supply. We have wastewater and stormwater capability across the subdivision.
So wastewater, you said?
Wastewater and stormwater services.
You rely on like roof collection for water supply.
Yes, we are tank per the rest of Ahipara.
Okay. No, thank you. That's really helpful.
No, I don't have any questions. I think a copy of the evidence that you presented would be useful to us. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. We've got your local councillor and commissioner here, so I'll see if she wants to answer.
Tremendous.
Yes, I was, yeah, I had similar questions around the information about it being not on sewer, but it is on sewer.
Yes.
So I think that was a point of clarification from me to our officers. And I'll ask my chair to seek that clarification as well, because I think that's a key aspect. And that what we were looking at on the computer was the hazards. Just to clarify, because the top part of it isn't in a hazard.
Correct.
I did have a question about the defendable boundaries part, because I can see there's the stream on the one side, and then above is the Moga, the big hill.
Yes.
But essentially the boundaries that you're asking for are just from the original subdivision boundaries.
Yeah, that's correct. It's DP 381292. That's the original planned subdivision. It was called Oceans Estate during its original submission. So yes, we're just seeking inside those boundaries.
Steve's not got any questions. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Partington. Just stay there. I'm going to ask the council officers. We'll give the council officers a chance to respond. I think I read in your hearing report that you wanted to hear further information in order to finalise your opinion. I accept that you've only just heard this now. However, while we've got Mr. Partington here, I'm happy for you to potentially ask some questions of clarification or give a response to the evidence.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I would ask for firstly the information that is presented today, but also information around the resource consent application details as well, because there could be some other.
So a copy of that resource consent?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the question that's been put to me from Ms. Trinder, the author of the 42A report, was reinforcing that she would like to see a copy of your evidence, but also if you could furnish a copy of the resource consent that you referred to.
I'm talking in specific to the requirements of our lot sizes in the rural production or general coastal zone, because we are well under the minimum requirements. Any changes require a resource consent in addition to a building consent.
I think the question was regards to the original subdivision consent.
Oh, by all means. Yep.
Could you provide that along with any conditions with your evidence to hearing administrator. That's the
That's
request.
good, thank you.
Thank you for clarifying.
Now, do any of your other colleagues want to address the panel? Speak now.
Tim has covered everything on our behalf from my perspective. Thank you for the offer though.
Ditto, thank you, Tim.
Right, finally, Mr. Parkin, do you have a planning qualification?
No, I don't, sir.
Well, that was very well written evidence for a non-planner, I might say. Better than some of the qualified ones. Congratulations on a very, very well prepared evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate council's time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I just ask, sorry, there is one question. What is the next steps, please? Sorry to interrupt him. What is the next steps after he submits everything?
I'm happy to clarify that for you. We have 2 more days of evidence to go. And then this hearing will be concluded. We will be hearing they've got another 4 hearings to go, and then we'll be concluding all of our hearings and writing reports that will be made available after March next year.
Okay.
Yeah. The officer also too, but as part of this process, is that the officers get to provide us with what we call a right of reply. Now that is, they'll give us a very quick verbal response tomorrow afternoon after we've heard all the evidence, but then they'll provide a written response to all the evidence they've heard, including your own, and they will have the opportunity to update any recommendations in response to evidence. So,
thank you, Council. Thank you, Tim.
I think what you're interested in is that if the reporting planner were to change their view and support your request, it would be set out in the right of reply, which will be available in about. A right of reply will be available in about.
Look, Mr. Chair, we probably get a discussion next week. It depends on scale and scope of the matters that you specifically want to send us away to have a look at. So
what I'll say is we usually try for 2 weeks, but there are so much material at the moment that we're offering council officers some extensions. So I would tentatively say this year.
Plus a hearing next week.
Yeah, so as I say, we've got 4. We've got a hearing next week, and then we've got 2 more hearings, and there's a lot of ground to still cover. It's just the same officers writing the same reports, preparing a number of other rights of reply, but I would expect you would have that this year.
certainly December, Mr. Chair.
I'm giving you the longest piece of rope I can fly.
Well, we've got an idea of when it could occur.
Okay. Well, thanks again for your presentation and attendance.
Much appreciated. Thank you all.
Thank you. Right, Vision Kerikeri and Co. And now they're just outside.
Which of these? Yeah, you back, Steve?
Yeah. No.
I just want to fly.
They're just having a quick bathroom break.
No, you go.
No, have a seat. We're just having a stretch.
Yeah.
This is one voluntary, yeah.
Okay. I just. Yeah. Shall I hand that one out now?
Yeah, she'll be in the centre, right?
Delivery on
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No. Give it back to him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh dear.
I was too scared to say that. I'm thinking my head off. I just said that's.
Yeah, I think she wants to do it as people speak.
Yes, I know.
Use the room while we get. Muting the room and turning on the camera.
Okay, and we have before us, and we welcome Vision Kerikeri Carbon Neutral Trust, Kapiro Conservation Trust, Kerikeri Peninsula Conservation Charitable Trust, and Kevin Mahoney. Welcome. Good to see you again. We'll hand it over to you to present. I just want to double check about pre-circulated evidence. Do we have? Or are you presenting your evidence all in priority today?
They're presenting it today and they've got handouts which I'll pass out as each one speaks.
Okay, so if you've got any material for us to read along with, give that to our hearing administrator now.
Now, or should we do it as each one speaks so we don't
I'm
confuse?
not actually away. What would you like?
You do it.
Maybe it's each one.
Okay. We should have a little break in between. So who's the first up?
Good afternoon, and thank you very much.
Each time, just clarify which organisations you represent. Just remind us where you start, which organisation, and I can just. I'll be tapping along, writing notes as we go. So. Mr. Mueller-Glod?
Yes, yes.
I've got your name right by now. So you're going to be representing Vision Kerikeri and the Carbon Neutral Trust?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And basically our submissions are combined, so we are all representing the same idea. Our topic is this time exclusively the rezoning request. Instead of Kevin Mahoney, we have Roger Pullman.
Marine Heart.
And Marine Heart, yes. Was of Landing Road. In 2020, our community groups had joined FNDC in the opposition against new construction plans for the development of Tubbs farmland into 120 non-compliant house lots in this rural lifestyle area. Our concerns covered inappropriate housing development in the area outside Kerikeri, for example, that means urban sprawl,
with poor connectivity via landing road with a single lane bridge, disturbance of the rural character, endangering fauna and flora, including kiwi in the river area, protection of scarce fertile land suitable for horticulture, and others. While the Environment Court unfortunately overruled FNDC planners and our community concerns, numerous conditions were included. Reduction of plots to 115 instead of 120, and substantial nature protection via a large reserve along the Rambitanga Stream. The conditions were welcome, and some of us now cooperate with new construction, with conservation work in the reserve area. Today, we are opposing the surprising application to rezone the whole Tubbs Farm land from rural lifestyle to rural residential for various reasons, which will be substantiated in detail in our submission. Dr. Müller will start presenting on behalf of our groups.
The section 42 report on rural rezoning requests opposes the majority of requests, as you'll be aware. And we agree, we don't support the rural rezoning requests. Primarily because I think these such as creating many more, much more residential for rural areas, fragmentation of productive land, not just HPO, but productive land, and undermining intensification in the urban areas. And I'll go on to talk about some of the other issues that we're concerned about. We have, we noted that the panel provided criteria for assessing rezoning requests, and we have actually got some information. We have assessed some of the larger requests with the help of a planner, and they're rather large documents, but we'll be submitting those to the electronic system. Our first concern is market demand and the large oversupply of rural lots. So as we know, the council consented actually hundreds of subdivisions in the past decade or so. And there is a very large, I would say, stockpile of bare lots that have not yet been built on. And then on top of that, the market demand for bare land has actually slumped quite a lot in the past few years. The real estate agents have sold only about 12 bare sections, bare land, less than 1 hectare in size per year in the Kerikeri area. So that's only about 12 bare sections per year, that's less than 1 hectare in the Kerikeri area, which is really so we do have a substantial oversupply, as you're aware. And section 42 reports point out that the existing conditions already provide ample to accommodate the projected demand for rural dwellings. In fact, the market economics evidence notes that rural capacity exceeds expected demand by more than 2 points, which is huge. And an earlier market economic report actually warned strongly against oversupply. We don't want undersupply, but also oversupply is a bad thing. And from our perspective, a large oversupply of rural lots will strongly discourage intensification around the urban areas, which is what's needed in the urban zones, and will undermine a key goal of the spatial plan, the PDP, and other national direction. On top of all that situation that we have already, upzoning additional rural areas, these requests in front of you will only increase the oversupply. Obviously, you're aware of the figures that are being given. Rural rezoning request would increase the number of rural dwellings by 30% district-wide, from about 11,000 to 14,000. And the majority apparently is in the rural residential, so increase of more than 3,000. So as you'll be aware, creating additional houses in rural areas does increase the travel distances to work and schools and services, and it increases carbon emissions, pollution, transport network issues. So these are all the things, some of the things we're concerned about. But from our perspective, it makes no sense to increase the supply of rural lots, and the supply is already 2 times larger than projected. A large, so if I move on to traffic and some of the transport network impacts, you'll be aware that the transport distance, the emissions are higher than what happens, as noted in Matt Collins' transport review. And he noted that the heritage bypass is going to experience greater capacity issues than expected if some of the key requests for upzoning are agreed. The trip generation estimates, as you know, that are typically used in the operative district plan would be about each household is expected to generate about 10 vehicle movements per day. And rural dwellings do normally generate more trips than average. So, for example, on one of the requests that's to the north of Kerikeri at Meridian Farm, the section 242 transport evidence included that an additional amount of just 19 to 33 watts, for example, could generate approximately 200 to 400 vehicles per day. And he said that while this may not seem significant, it would have a direct effect on the capacity of the heritage bypass, which is already expected to be under significant pressure to probably rarely any spatial plan traffic assessments. I should comment that obviously this is a matter of concern to us, and one of the reasons why we oppose the rural rezoning requests, say, aside from heritage precinct, but we support that. So we really welcome the fact that your section 42 report has looked at the wide network-wide traffic issue, this issue, and some of the cumulative traffic effects, because sometimes in other areas that doesn't happen, and we all of you are looking at this carefully. There's a similar matter to do with Landing Road Bridge. Landing Road Bridge is a busy one-lane bridge. There's a transport engineer in Scanlon. He made a transport network assessment a couple of years ago of the traffic catchment on the north side of Landing Road Bridge, and that's on the view. It's the north plan here. So to orientate you, Kerikeri-Waipapa CBD is down here, and the landing road comes from Kerikeri-Waipapa Road up to this area here, meeting with Kadira Road and Kuru Road going up here, Redcliffe Road, and down to Silver's Beach. All of the traffic moving on these roads, when it goes to Kerikeri, normally goes down by Landing Road and back up again that way. So he assessed the impact of increasing development in this entire traffic catchment. the whole area covers about 146 hectares, so it's really quite substantial. And he noticed that based on the standard assumptions, every new house actually constructed in that northern traffic catchment would add about 100 vehicles per day on the road, and a high percentage of that goes across Langley Road and the one-lane bridge. We will speak later. Marie lives in Langley Road and can speak about some of the issues that they experience there. So Mr. Scanlon, traffic engineer, his assessment, he concluded that at the full permitted development of the catchment of the Langley Road Bridge area here, it's a big area to be moved, plus that from submitted consents not yet approved at the time 2 years ago, he estimates that at full development, the traffic on the Langley Road Bridge will be more than 10,000 movements per day, which he's actually calculated, and we'll show you the figures sending to you. I mean, that's a massive increase, even on what is there at the moment. I think the last traffic count was something like 3,000. So the effects of this, he said, for example, would be that the practical capacity of the bridge will be exceeded over 4 hours on an average weekday, and at least 1 hour in the morning, also at least 3 hours in the afternoon, starting around weekend, for a total of some 20 hours each week. It's actually made detailed calculations. He also has concern about the safety of the bridge, especially with increasing traffic demand on it. He notes aspects to do with speed at which people approach, and other problems to do with visibility, because we've got some narrow roads, quite narrow bends just either side of the bridge. On top of this, lengthy queues there cause hazards elsewhere along Landing Road on busy periods. And on top of that, Landing Road Bridge itself has a timber deck, and the maintenance costs are significantly higher for that than a number of other bridges in the area. And all of these issues, this is the point, all of these issues will continue to escalate as if more and more development is added into the traffic catchment. We already have and will supply use of electronic problems. Of course, it's not just about traffic issues. The noise, the vibration, confuse, all these extra issues do have an impact on people who live on the road. And Harry Hart, who's a resident of London, should be speaking about that a bit later this afternoon. In addition, there is a paper about the historical and ecological heritage values of Waipapa Landing itself. This is a historic area around the bridge, where there used to be a tram line, as they call it, basically a small railway line that brought timber all the way to the forest to the Waipapa Landing Bridge, and that then narrow boats called scores, shallow boats called scores that come to open to the It's this one that's sort of quirky things, but there are quite a few historical things associated with that area. People value the heritage there, and gave more and more traffic going through that area from the northern catchment, so it is more and more profitable. So I'd like to speak briefly then about the horticulture precinct. Basically, just to say, we do strongly support rezoning to create the horticulture precinct. We've said, I think in previous occasions, like period 9, that we do support this. We feel it's important for the economic well-being benefits to the community. And may I refer you then to our paper that hearing which goes through some of the reasons. Not only do we want to protect highly productive land, but also other productive land, like FNDC class 4, because we have so little of the highly productive land left. But we also note that the irrigation infrastructure in the 2 areas, the north and south of Kerikeri, are extremely valuable, and creating the horticulture precinct will help protect that major infrastructure asset. Don't need to remind you that the government actually did contribute 23 million to that. It's you know, it's something that communities have a stake in the government. Other regions are making strenuous efforts to raise funding to build this type of irrigation system. So, and then in future, irrigation will be increasingly important for resilience of our district and future food production in our area. So we believe the cost of building a similar large underground pipeline, which is extraordinary, today would be almost prohibitive. So it really makes good sense, and we applaud you for protecting this highly valuable asset, which contributes to our economic. I've taken up quite a bit of time already. I just want to say we have also looked at the criteria provided by the assessing these zoning requests. So we examined in detail South Kerikeri, some of the South Kerikeri Road, some requests at the southern end of Kerikeri Road, and some farming areas and former farms on the north side of Landing Road. And we think that there are very good reasons for opposing all of the rural zoning requests, except for the precinct. I think I'd like to end over now to make David Rees. Yes, David Rees also speaking with me on behalf of Kerikeri and other submitters.
Thank you. So I will just walk to the document that's I'll find the highlight some key points. I'm not going to go through the word obviously, but the key point right on the front page is that we strongly support lifestyle development for South Farm and strongly oppose the rezoning to a rural residential area. And we'd like to try and explain our arguments for that. So the first point is, in terms of direction, the PDP's strategic objective is a more compact urban reform. And here we are talking about rezoning and intensifying the area plan, which is far from being compact, right up to the northeast, and is also not within or anywhere near the development areas as outlined in recent spatial plan. In the 6 scenarios the council came up to, the furthest north one gets is the north side of Waipapa Road, and Tupsmum is a long way north of that. So one of the key points really is that allowing rezoning to rural residential is starting to pathway to further intensification development. I'll talk a little bit more about that in 2 minutes. In an area that's just simply not part of council planning. And so all 6 scenarios show further urban development taking place really around the 2 centres, Waipapa and Kerikeri, and the furthest north, either the south side or the north side, Waipapa Road. And point 2 is just to highlight the locations. If I can draw your attention to figure 2, that's that one there. Now, what we've got, as you know, is the rural residential in grey line and grey area, and these blue lines showing the distance from the CBD. Now, there is one part of that rural residential on the top, northeast side, which, as the dotted line shows, is substantially further away. Tubbs Farm just takes that even further. So what we're doing is creating a sort of a bubble up there of rural residential land, which, you know, it's not close to the city. It takes about an hour and a half to walk into the city. It's the distances, the lack of infrastructure really counters any move to try and move away from the rural lifestyle, rural residential. Also, the current sort of planning within the rural residential boundaries is a very defensible boundary right now on Waipapa Road, nothing north of Kapira Road. As soon as we start allowing rural residential north of Kapira Road, you know, there is an argument from submitters that the stream provides one, but that's certainly allows further development. There's development on the north side. It's harder to actually defend that sort of boundary when right now there is a logical defensible boundary in planning terms, and create a bubble of this type in the northeast doesn't seem to be logical in terms of the direction the council wants to travel, nor defensible in planning terms. The other thing that's really important is that under the PDP, rural residential zones is actually zones for urban development in the future. The PDP's S32 report says that the overall management approach of the rural residential includes, quote, making it clear at a policy level that this zone can be upzoned as required. That the objectives there of the rural residential zone ensures the ability of the land to be rezoned for urban development in the future. And states that the purpose of the rural residential zone is to signal land that is anticipated to be converted to urban use in the future. So what we're doing, if we approve a rezoning, we are actually saying this is land that we see will become urban development in the foreseeable future. And from our point of view, that just seems completely illogical when all your other planning documents are actually talking about a compact urban form, and you're talking about zoning land, which in the future clearly states is anticipated to be converted to urban development, an hour and a half walking distance, no infrastructure, that it is heavily target dependent. Nobody can get the schools, get the CBD, the post office, none of the facilities can be got to safely except by jumping in. Nothing talked about landing roads, have even more, unless there's a major infrastructure work done on Landing Road. You know, I'm a cyclist, I ride it, but I'm 71, I'll take my life in my hand, I'll go for it. But I certainly wouldn't allow any of my kids to ride down there. It's, you know, you take your life in your hands down there. So if we're allowing that, we are actually, as soon as you say, yeah, we'll allow the rezoning from rural residential, you're also saying that you anticipate this piece of land from right up on the northeast will, in the foreseeable future, be actually set aside for urban development. And then point 5 is the point that Melanie's already made, that we've already got an oversupply of rural lots. And even thinking about allowing rezoning to actually add to that, again, from our point of view, just doesn't seem to make sense. There's no need in this community for more rural lots, and there's certainly no need in the community for urban lots, which will be actually deemed to be converted for urban planning in the future. One of the arguments put up for the rezoning is the existence of small blocks. And one way to think about Tubbs Farm is, you know, think about it in 3 years. We've got the West Tubbs, which is, if you look at figure 3, West Tubbs is the more recent development on stages 3 to 6. The blue was the, we'll call East Tubbs, which was the stages of 1 and 2 of Tubbs Farm. But there's also an early development on Kingfisher Drive. Now, to argue that because we have some small lots in what will be their stage 3, the whole area doesn't justify to be left as a rural lifestyle, it doesn't hold water. It just doesn't make sense that suddenly you can rezone the whole area because within that development, you have a few smaller lots. The submitter suggests that the area of smaller lots in West Hubs indicates that the entire area, including East Hubs, should be run as rural residential. So we can't quite see how you can argue that, given the size of the lots. Out in Penguin, we've got an average lot size of about a hectare. Around the Kingfisher Drive, we've got 7 lots of 1 to 3 hectares. There's a whole range. And the next point to make is, of course, that if that all becomes rural residential, the submitter says that looking at sections, there'll only be roughly 3 to 6 more sections. Well, we've done an analysis of the possibility, because as soon as you've got an area that's now rural residential deemed to be urban, the current consents can be challenged. But under the RMA, it specifically said you can go to the consent authority, change or cancel conditions attached to resource consent, normally treated in the same way as a resource application for a discretionary activity. Now, if we do that, we had some experts looking at what's the possibility. I have people in that now whole of Tubbs Farm, which is now rural residential, future going to be urban, want to actually apply for subdividing. Now, we tried not to go over the top and didn't subdivide everything. We looked at slopes and topography, the coastal environment rules, existing vegetation, etc. Tried not to be too, but as soon as people start applying to have some of those consents changed, then you start to look in terms of the stage 4, potentially 18 to 20 extra lots. And in terms of East Hubs, we're looking at significant numbers around Blue Penguin and around the Kingfisher. So depending on people's basic desire to subdivide, I think we can't sort of predict this, but the point being it could be over, if stages 4 and 5 are not being, keeping in mind that stage 4 and 5 are not even being looked at for 5 or 6 years. So in 5 or 6 years, coming back into that under a new rezoning, if that's not reconfigured, well, even on the existing thing, we could see a potential of at least 38 extra lots. And if stages, they reconfigure stage 4 and 5, there's potentially more than 50. Now, we don't have the money to do a really detailed analysis, but our expert looked at it lot by lot, and definitely that's the potential. And while we can't predict, maybe the rules will allow people to go to use the consenting authority and ask for the conditions around the resource consent to be changed. That's happened in the past, and that's the future that we will be faced with if this is rezoned to rural residential. People will be able to come to you and say, this is future urban development. We are now in a zone which, in a rural lifestyle, we can go down already in the rules you're talking about, down now to 2,000 square meters. And so even on existing, I think you're going to have people who can see the obvious financial benefits, and you could be open to a large number of applications for rezoning. Under number 8, I won't go over that other than to say that the points made by Melanie, if the worst case scenario came out and we had an extra 50 lots, all the issues that Melanie's just talked about just get blown even more so. And, we know under the scenario planning you've already done to the social plan, there's an acknowledgement that heritage bypass is going to be pushed to capacity with whatever those scenarios are, especially scenario, I think it's 2 and 3 around Lighthouse Road. This is just going to add even more to that. And the last one is that I know the submitter said, well, the subdivision up there is not really suitable for rural production, therefore should shift from rural lifestyle to rural residential. However, under your own section 42 reports, they've recommended reducing the lot sizes in the rural lifestyle from 2 to 1 hectare. Now, 1 hectare property can't be expected to have significant rural production. So you're already signaling the rural lifestyle is not just for forestry and rural production, but it is for residential rural lifestyles. So, you know, and that, at the moment, that's what's up there is appropriate for that. And I think that one, so I suppose if I'm trying to sum up, there is a zoning up there, rural lifestyle, which is highly appropriate for the type of development. Not only if one goes to a rezone into rural residential, does it immediately add the potential for 3 to 5 or sections up there, but in doing that, you are saying this land is now deemed to be suitable for future urban development, which is way up in the northeast. That cuts across all the direction, which, as you probably know from we've been supporting more compact urban form and connectivity, etc. So we support council very strongly on that. And that's why we oppose any changes that allow the potential for actually more and more intense development up on Tubbs Farm. Thank you.
I think we might pause for a couple of questions there. Especially as an observation, there's lots of statements, you're doing this and you're doing that, of course. You is not us. We are an independent hearing panel.
Yeah, sorry, mine.
Addressing submissions and counts.
I
don't take it personally. This is from one that we are the independent.
That's right.
Look, no. In terms of Ms. Miller, you were saying that you think that there is a market issue there. The lots won't sell, and therefore why zone it when they won't sell? Yeah, Mr. Rees, your evidence is expect not only the lots that expect 49 to 51 lots, and I'm thinking both can't happen. Which is likely to be the outcome, and what should we base our determination? Which reality should we base our determination?
The thing from me is, as I said, we can't predict, we don't know, right? But you are creating a conflict with rezoning.
Not you again.
Sorry, my apologies. Right. But in rezoning, the council will be creating a condition where people in that area and the developer could, if they wish, try and actually rezone it into smaller sections. And the council would have limited control of that because, as being a rural residential zone, it is earmarked for future urban development and allows the possibility for the developers and current landowners up there to actually apply for rezoning.
So I suppose I'm just trying to reconcile. There's no demand for it, but there actually is demand for potentially 51 lots. And or are you accepting either outcome? Could
It's a complex situation, and we can actually send to you data going back to the year 2000 on the sales of bare land less than 1 hectare in the Kerikeri area. We actually try to get more precision about dividing it into, say, urban zones, rural zones. We haven't got that data, but this comes from the estate agents in one of the main estate agents in Kerikeri. And what it shows is that we had a big sort of boom around 2003, 2005, when more than 100 lots were sold per year. But then actually there's been a gradual decline. There was another little boom in 2016, and then it's just sort of trickled down and down and down. But at the same time, so in the last 2 years, it's been 12 sold per year on average. But 12 per year. But at the same time, so much has already been consented. You have this land sitting there, either consents that have not yet been acted on, not yet subdivided, or people have created their land, but they're sitting on it because they're not getting the really high prices that they had expected from earlier booms. But it's a sort of weird situation. And the estate agents, it's worth talking with them, they say that they think the main reason, firstly, is COVID having an impact, probably. There's a general economic factor, but then on top of that, the cost of building has gone up so much. It's really, they say, it's not me, it's a police thing, they say it's really slowed it down. Yes. So what we have is this pile of overcapacity sitting there. And our concern is that by adding more, we will, and it will just make it worse. And coming back to what developers, I can think of an example where A developer is well aware, the developer development, are well aware, numbers of plots that are actually being sold, but there's kind of hopefulness in human beings or something, I don't know, because we still see some.
The other thing we talk about.
Some significant subdivisions going ahead, while the developer is in full awareness of these data that they're just not selling. So I would be very happy to advise you. I actually may. Send you that information with references here. But the point is, so even knowing this, there are developers that are still pushing ahead with developing quite large numbers of plots because they have the consent, and they're just hoping that somehow they're going to get an educated Auckland buy them or something like that, or they'll be up to. So that's kind of the, I don't know how it helps.
The other thing I think is timescale.
No, I can answer this question.
The other thing is timescales. We are here contemplating some decisions which will have an impact 10, 20, 30 years out. Now, I certainly don't have the market time. However, what we are saying, in making the rezoning, you are creating the context of vision which will allow developers to actually potentially hold on and not develop sections 5 and 6, for example, and hold on to it because the market's not right, and hold on at a time when maybe the pressures are building up for more intense development and you've got the urban development coming. Who knows? I don't know. I can't predict that sort of thing. But why, my question why would you actually create some rules knowing the uncertainties of the future, but would create a possibility that a developer says, oh, right, we're rural residential, future urban development. Now, if I'm Neil, why would I start developing these sections here when may not sell them, but maybe in 10 years' time? I don't know, but you're creating, the council is potentially creating a condition which will allow that sort of game to be played.
Yeah, I get it. Thank you. Right, no, thank you for those clarifications. Right, next. Who's the next speaker?
Marie Hart.
Ms. Hart? Yes, we've seen you before. I think we saw you at hearing 14, was that right?
So my statement of is on behalf of submitters, further submitters and residents who are adversely affected by rezoning requests in a rural area of the land. So that shows the names and so on. My name is Maureen Hart and I live in and I'm speaking on behalf of residents who are with more extensive zoning than those rural area mortgage. There's no provision here. This catchment is large. Includes road networks and Hero Road, Red Bricks Road, and Puru Rural Road. And we oppose upzoning in William Farm area, Tubbs Farm area, Kingfisher Drive, and northern traffic catchments. We seek PDT decisions that will avoid residential sprawl in rural areas and support new housing in areas that are suitable for future growth. Prevent further fragmentation and loss of land suitable for agriculture, and protect the traditional rural character and amenity values that is residents. We strongly oppose rural rezoning requests that may increase the number of lots created in the traffic area of the Northern London Road for the reasons outlined below. As noted in the Kerikeri statement today, expert analysis for FNDC has confirmed that the proposed district plan published in 2022 will supply more than sufficient capacity to meet the expected demand for rural residential land over the next 30 years. They concluded the proposed supply is already 2.3 times larger than expected. It is clear that additional intensive rural zoning, upzoning, is simply not needed. Giving Kerikeri noted that each new house in the northern traffic catchment would add about 10 vehicles a day on local roads, according to the FNDC standard traffic assumptions. Therefore, 100 new houses would add 1,000 vehicles per day, 200 houses, 2,000 vehicles. Most of this extra traffic would travel to and from central Kerikeri via Landing Road. Already the traffic on Landing Road has increased in the past due to subdivision consents in northern catchment. If zoning is approved, it will generate negative effects in living in our community. I would like to highlight some examples of the real life human impacts, drawing on a survey of residents in our neighbourhood in the northern part of Landing Road. The survey found that people in our community value the area's rural character, close to nature, with green open spaces, trees and bird life, the river, the swimming hole, Kerikeri at night, the historic character of Waipapa landing area, and the peaceful environment in the grounds of Cherry Park Huts. People have chosen to live there because of its rural characteristics. Additional development due to upzoning, etc., in the northern traffic catchment will create many negative effects on the character and amenity values that the people need, such as more noise, vibration, and disruption in traffic, especially during busy periods. This affects residents who live near the road and heavily use the Waipapa stream and riverbanks for peaceful recreation. Additional noise and vibration at night, impacting residents who live near the road. More noise from the bridge. Before the major repairs were carried out this year, vehicles often cause very loud banging sounds when they hit the least deck. The bridge surface has had major repairs. However, traffic will continue to damage the surface over time, leading to loud bangs and disturbances again in the future. And additional traffic from upzoning will destroy the bridge surface faster, increasing council repair costs. Increased traffic congestion and hold-ups will occur during busy periods on the one-lane bridge, at the junction of the school road, and at roundabouts towards Kerikeri. Direct negative effects on heritage bypass capacity, as stated earlier, which is anticipated to be under significant as noted by FNDC's transport. Greater difficulties getting out of driveways. It's already like playing Russian roulette in busy periods. More pollution. Residents reported concerns about increased pollution from traffic fumes and noise, particularly around the bridge, where people wish to use the swimming hole or the swimming and river holes are special places enjoyed for generations. Additional near misses for pedestrians. Parents have reported seeing regular near misses near intersection at school drop-off and collection times. And more pedestrian safety issues in general, additional safety risks for children walking to school. Several areas where children and elderly people need to cross the road are considered hazardous already by locals. Loss of rural character and heritage values around the Waipapa landing area. And Waipapa Landing Heritage Study Group produced a report covering the land waterway usage, the history and heritage of the area, the natural heritage and recreational and community usage. And a copy will be submitted through Vision Care electronically. So such changes would create permanent and ongoing negative effects. We therefore respectfully ask all requests for more intensive zoning in the northern traffic.
Thank you. Very clear.
We showed him the break.
Yeah. When you see me twiddling on my computer, I was looking at Google Street View, otherwise known as Google Site Visit. To have a look at that bridge. I'm familiar with it. I've been over it several times. I just think it should be familiar. Thank you. So have we got more presentations?
Yeah, maybe to conclude, you have heard the details and the expected effects in detail. I would just like to say at the end that the first step was for new construction to apply for a non-compliant development for the rural lifestyle area. And they received consent to plots with as small as 3,000 square meters instead of the necessary 4,000. With a limitation of no further non-compliant subdivision based on the operative plan at the time in future. Then following now, the submitter applies for rezoning to rural living, which would enable further subdivisions based on a new limit of 2,000 square meters. So they're using the exception that they have received from the Environment Court to build on 3,000 square meter plots, and having that and starting to build in stage 3 and maybe 4. They're now asking, well, since there are so many houses already, let's rezone it to rural residential, which reduces the necessary size to even only 2,000 square meters. And who knows what is going to happen then? Neil argues that the rezoning might only result in 4 to 6 additional plots, stating even, I heard their submission here yesterday, that it is unlikely. Now, to us, it seems very likely that the developer or any future owner, I mean, just imagine the developer would sell the state and the future stage to somebody else who goes to the drawing board and creates a totally new plan based on only 2,000, or even worse, what was said before, possibly only 1,000 square meters in a rural, in an urban area. So we think that the developer or any future owner will use the opportunity to increase profits by creating display lots. And therefore, we are strongly opposing the rezoning of the arguments will be accepted by.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
No, thanks for your presentations. It's always, good local information for us. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, the long-term view you've taken has certainly made me think. And I'm well aware of the traffic issues. Thank you.
I know we heard your concerns yesterday as well online.
It's a worry, isn't it? Live.
Yes, Kerikeri is located in a very odd place, so many rivers around us, so traffic is really difficult to handle.
And I'll just say in conclusion, whilst we were congratulating the two parties for agreeing with each other, that doesn't mean we're going to discount your solutions. You've delivered some well articulated arguments to us for us to consider going forward. The council officers will be considering it too. So again, thank you very much. And I'm betting we're going to see you next week as well.
Yes, of course. On Wednesday.
And probably the hearing after subdivision. Okay, until then,
Thank you very much.
We look forward to another well-researched paper coming our way.
We already got the invitation for hearings.
and then there's one more. Sure, you can find a reason to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Now we have Kerikeri. Have I pronounced your name properly?
Close enough. It's Per Lognet.
Lonet. My apologies, thank you.
And my son Henrik, he will act as my conciliary today because he was present at the two hearings that Alan.
Yeah, apologies, I didn't recognise you before. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, well, welcome and have a seat.
Yeah, no, we're running an hour behind schedule to see if I can make up for some of that.
Don't feel like you're under any pressure.
Last time I heard you, you didn't have much to say. It didn't take too long.
Keep this one efficient. Yeah, if we look at page 28 on the final report, this plan here, I assume that you have that in front of you.
This is the rural planners report.
Oh, sorry.
Urban one, okay. Right.
You got access to that?
Yeah.
Okay. I just printed only one photo of two pieces here just to put it in its correct colors. I assume that we can be relatively informal.
We can give them to them.
Because Felicity and Ellen is probably familiar with it. But it shows where the piece of land is related to the highway and also related to Cable Bay Block Road. So if you look at this area here, everything on page 28 there is accessed from the highway, which is the core of the center of the middle of Cupid's page. And we got the bowling club to the left there. So basically everything here that's yellow and red dotted is residential. It's accessed from the front. It's got residential infrastructure. It's within the area of benefit for sewage, and it's within 5 to 10 minutes walk to the shops and medical clinic in Cooper's Beach. You can see on the bottom left corner, you can see a boundary. That boundary goes just outside the rest. It's more or less left to right, with a slight downward swing. That's why it's everything south of there is the rural living area that's accessed off Cable Bay Block Road, where you're one of the several kilometers walk from the shops and the medical clinic. So there's a very logical demarcation between the residential area and the rural living area. And my submission was basically to slightly misinterpreted by the plan. I was obviously referring to all the zoning south of. I worded it south of Freya Crescent, and if you take the beginning of Freya Crescent and go south, that covers that whole area. There are 11 legacy sections, some from 2007 and some from 2015-16 approximately, that are zoned rural living as well. And we got the first 20 sections of our retirement development that show up here as some rural living. So all we're asking is for basically the zoning to affect, we confused, and basically reflect the reality that everybody agreed on, that it is a residential area, so it should be zone residential. With Great Lattice, we've been able to work around some of this, but we're building a few more houses now in the stage one of the retirement complex that Ellen was involved in the hearing. Six years ago, almost to the day.
Was it? Yeah.
And every single building consent gets tied up in this zoning anomaly. It adds processing time, it adds delays, adds cost, obviously. And even though we had meetings with both the resource consent and building consent managers, it seems like the various offices get confused. Like there's basically no justification to rezone this residential area residential.
Yeah, like you made here 6 years ago.
Yes.
That all of this extra hassle for everyone could have been avoided if
We're frantically looking at the planning maps trying to identify your land. So could you assist us? So you're saying the land immediately south of Freya Crescent. If you could just
Well, if we can
come around the front here and perhaps draw it on this plan.
Yeah. Basically, we got Freya Crescent. And that's south. So any land between there and the boundary here to the little creek here, everything here including including this bit here, actually. I don't care about this bit. But that's our house sections, I don't care, that's the living one. But basically, everything here is accessed from here. We got the first bit of shops here, we got Foursquare here, we have the medical clinic here. Everything here is easy walking distance, we got the tennis. So what I was referring to in my submission was to rezone this, basically everything that's right here. Up to that boundary residential, because it is that residential infrastructure. And it is obviously residential, and with at great expense and exceptional delays, we managed to get a few consents. So basically, every time anyone tries to get these people here, when they try to do something, they get treated as really, so it's just more expense, more waste of town councils. So basically, the area immediately behind here, which is actually from Cable Bay Block Road, that's area between 4,000 square meters and perfectly appropriate. There's adequate supply. There's no need to have 4,000 square meter lots here in this residential. All we're asking is for the zoning purpose. So if this is basically just the same thing.
Right, thank you.
So yeah, I can't add much to that work. Historical things which could be.
I guess I'll just half following it. So I was just getting to clarify.
Yeah. We know our Mr. Chair.
I don't say you're already ahead of the game. It's just us catching up.
Yeah, and we have Alan on video saying 6 years ago that the only reason why we didn't have that hearing 6 years ago. That's just been too slow to resolve it. So get on a chance. The district currently is what, 21, 22 years old. The US population was 4 million at the time.
Right, we need to like. Okay, and oh, let's see. Okay, thanks. Have you got anything? I saw straight when I was reading this, I saw straight. But I'm line now. Thanks. Have you got any comments to make on the council's report?
Yes, I do. I'm going to try not to be too personal.
Don't be personal at all. Just
It's
what we're interested in is
basically Captain Ross's legacy. It's the report is fairly reactionary. It acknowledges the facts that it's evidently a residential area. It acknowledges that we have been able to get resource consents for residential development. But then it draws the conclusion that because we managed to do that, there's no need to rezone it residential, even though we're obviously developing it residential. And to me, that misses several points. One is, of course, the fact that it's taken a very long time, costs a lot of money, and every time anyone wants to build on it, there'll be additional processing time and costs and delays that are quite unnecessary. Because council policy and government policy indicates that it's desirable to utilize existing infrastructure to do something about affordable housing and other things as a population. So it seems to be a slight disconnect between accepting the facts and then coming to a conclusion that it should remain rural.
Right. I'll see if the other commissioners have any questions.
And it's all serviced or adequately serviced?
Oh, yeah. It's got the water supply, it's got its own sewage, it's got the our own stormwater system, we have the porous fibre, we've got the farms.
Demand?
Yeah, well, at the hearing that you chaired 6 years ago.
Chaired by myself, but that wasn't it.
There were 274 local submissions in support. And prior to that, there have been petitions in support, and if we had been able to do what the community committee that was set up in early 2016 expected, then the rest of them would have been up and running 3 years ago, and it would have created 45 permanent jobs. And many of those people who have since been forced to move out of the area because the big house and the big sections too much from the forced to move.
The hiring of small
Or
streets.
something down here, that many of us would have lived in this area here. So that's unfortunately this delays have been quite destructive for the retired settle. I think we have a disproportionate amount of retired residents in the Douglas Bay area that suffering.
Your submission didn't include the approved decision for your resource consent, or the panel members. Ellen might have one. Or the panel.
Resource concept now for stages 2 and 3. It only took us 5 years from putting it. We did get that in the last year.
Yeah.
But we still need to do the rest term, of course, and to make that financially sustainable, we need to have the first 20 houses occupied. We're building house number 4 at the moment. Yeah, with basically 35 houses behind schedule compared to what we should have, and that's why the rest term is not likely to have enough another couple of 3 years rather than having been up and running. But we're not quite ready to give up yet. We're getting close, but we haven't completely tossed it in yet.
I think Commissioner Boyd wanted to get a copy of that consent.
For the panel.
Yeah, for the panel. Could you provide us with a
The
copy of that
consent?
consent?
The one that
I'll put it to that.
The officers, yeah.
all the officers can give it to us. Don't have that at hand.
Yeah, but no, I can send another copy. There's plenty of wrong.
So-
But that basically that only addresses one of the anomalies. That whole area, including those 11 sections
So that's this
outside of our current development, should be rezoned. And also that area in the middle there, there's 9,000 square meters right in the middle there, which is designated for the rest of it. That's neat. Otherwise, you're going to end up with endless delays in trying to get this together.
Yeah, just try and find workarounds.
Yeah, I mean, the council both planning and building and stuff have been helpful, but it still complicates things for everybody, creates extra work for everybody. And extra cost, of course, and endless delays for the long suffering population.
And you drew the shape on the plan there of the area you're wanting to be, the whole thing to be rezoned.
Obviously, the whole thing, whatever is grey, south of, well,
yeah,
I just, in my submission, I mentioned just south of Freya Crescent, and that's basically the whole grey area, and not just our properties, there's obviously the other properties as well. And that was my intended interpretation of my wording. It was obviously not very clear, because it didn't scribble on the zone map.
that's right. Yeah. So in terms of servicing, you have approval from the infrastructure department to have reticulated sewage to that whole area that you drew to be
This whole area has been within the area of benefit for sewage since November 2000.
Yeah, great. Because we've got the infrastructure staff who will be asking many questions too about our infrastructure as well, in terms of how that relates to our new CCO for Northland's work program for the next 10 years. So that's one of the questions.
No, but
Thank
just,
you.
we obviously put all the infrastructure in there. We paid our development contributions. We've been in the game long enough, having paid about $600,000 of development contributions for this area. It's a recent decade, of course, a lot of newbie developers haven't paid the development contribution. And that needs to be utilized efficiently. We're both engineers and we like things to be efficient, and this is among the least efficient exercises that we've been doing in recent decades.
Thank you. I think there might have been a question of clarification from you, Commissioner.
Yes, please. I see it, if I look at the our reporting planners and the 42A report on page 29, it shows an approved plan, which looks like an extension of Freya Crescent.
That's the one that Alan approved 6 years ago.
And then there's a further subversion of block 26 of that plan on page 30. And you say stage 2, that's been approved now.
We managed to get approved in the last 12 months. Yeah.
And then the bottom of page 30, there's another stage 3, which was a subdivision of another area, I think, off tool.
No, that's just because it was just held in a different title at the time.
And that's approved as well?
Yeah.
All right. And then there's another part relating to 8 Para, which is approved, but there's only a number of lots. Stage 8 lots, 12 to 19 is granted. Have you got the balance of that approved now as well?
Right, Para. No, well, is that yours? Should we agree that we're finished with the Cooper's speech slide?
Yeah, you've got approval for most of this under the existing zoning, or just what's the advantage of shifting that zoning?
What's the, okay, logically you would approach it the other way around. Why is it not zoned residential? When it is evidently residential, and as I pointed out, that this residential area, which is distinct from the rural area, is accessed from the highway through Torsham Road.
Yeah, I understand that.
But basically the advantage, like I tried to, I'm sorry if I'm not communicating clearly, but the advantage is that we still need to develop the rest time. We still need to build on these sections, retirement housing, and every single building consent gets complicated because even though we have consent, there's still the way council's building consent processing staff look at it, they look at the zoning. And if we look at that,
yeah, I think I understand it now. I've got it. So,
and there are still anomalies that may not be evident to the planner who wrote the report. But it adds cost, it adds delay, it adds unnecessary complications, and there are no positive outcomes. There are only negative outcomes, both for council staff and for whoever trying to get everything done. It increases the cost and reduces the productivity of this group.
I get it. Thank you.
Okay, you've got some other sites to discuss as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I think Para.
Yeah, that was Ellen was chairing that during 3 years.
Yeah.
And we made part of progress. That's cool. So
This is Wicker Street, isn't it?
Felicity is familiar with it. I think they had a section in the area here.
You know this area well, Felicity?
Yes.
And Ellen was familiar with it 3 years ago. And again, a clarification. If we look at the context here of the plans, that's reflected here, but this one here also shows the two opposing parties, which was Masters and Wakeman. And we sold this buffer area. This is what the search system is. We sold this buffer area to Masters more than 20 years ago. Because they have the rural operations. So basically our property went here. And we got rid of that because part of that was within the buffer zone. We didn't want anyone to get confused and whatever. So we sold it to Masters. We sold this to Wakeman 12 years ago. And when we sold it rurally to Wakeman, obviously the access is a 20-meter wide access lane from the rural area to Central Road. At the time, Wakeman asked for access, the right of access from here because he was that was the reason why we granted a 6-meter access way here. And when we sent this to Wakeman, we registered an easement and drainage easement to create basically residential developers. Easement obviously for the way it is. From before we sell it to him that this will be developed residential. And this has got the residential infrastructure, it's got sewage connections here, the manhole here that was sell to the sewage. We only discovered just prior to the hearing 3 years ago that there was a mistake when the council staff put this into the area of benefit, which made the development contributions. So that they missed this corner at the time. So this ended up outside of the area of benefit, despite us having that. So that's the one there. So basically, again, it's the similar. Should I sit down or can I?
Yeah, sit down and have a seat. Thanks. Thank you. Sure,
Because
I've got that up on the planning notes now, so that's making.
yeah, the situation is very similar. That's obviously a residential area. It's an extension of the existing residential area in High Park. It just hasn't been rezoned yet.
In the back part of it, you're just wanting the part with the residential side lot, so you're not wanting the back.
It's about 10,000 square meters. It's 1 hectare corner there. That's in the same zone. We got the street lights, we got the footpath, we got the sewage connections, we got the stormwater drain either side of that. And just to provide additional sewage connections there, or additional house connections, we will just run a few pipes into the existing manhole. It was all planned back in 2004, 2005 to do this as part of the residential. That's why we're in the 8 meter road with footpath. The footpath is even on that side. So to keep that as 4,000 square meter lots, when another 4,000 square meter lots, that's access from the residential area, and I doesn't make any sense. That's should clearly be residential, and again, council policy, that's an inclusive subdivision. It doesn't try to be inclusive, it's inclusive. We encourage good quality houses, and there's a mixed so of the socioeconomics of our power. And we've had the discussions with Tiraro as well, and we're trying to do a joint venture with them with parks and the affordable housing in that context. That takes time through the process, but there's plenty of demand for it, obviously, for affordable housing. And I mean, there's different areas of high power that cater for different requirements, but this one here is good access to the beach. And yeah, that's meeting demand.
Any further questions?
So this is the area beyond the original one that was conceived, which is stage 2, as I recall.
This is stage 1.
Yeah, this is the stage
one.
1.
We've got stage 2, which is those 8 lots. What's in one of the reporting maps.
Yeah, which was more a continuity of the existing development that was there, and stage 1 was going into what's now the.
Well, this one is much of a continuity because it's.
Yeah,
physically, it's fully developed on the left, and then there's a little bit of a paddock to the right, but it's got the footpath on the right hand side. It's got the sewage connection, so it's basically as you driving, it's just the other side of the road. Same as stage 2, the one we got. As you turn left, there's the other side of the road from the one else. It's no more or no less of a continuity. It's a continuity. We were the first ones to build the roads properly with the channel and footpaths in. They were slightly more basic rolling standard on everything else. And we did that for obviously for this bit form. We put in the transformer that specifically services the site. We put in annual sewage. We put the inlet levels on the manholes in such a way so you can go back to the pump station. It's a pump station just on the left as you drive into the subdivision, so it's 100 meters away, and that's all for the service. So we want the zoning to reflect that, so we're not have another hearing about it.
And then it'll be
I
another.
don't mind it, but it's just we're going to stop meeting like this.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. You've got there's another property. Sorry, did I miss it?
There is one issue which is more a land use consent issue, and that's visible from the main science that relates to. So it relates to the top corner of this property. If this ended up in commercially years ago, getting some bits of the first shops are here. We did the subdivision, so we got 9 lots, and we put comments on so there'll be residential, but for the top corner, because of its share. And this is a road reserve here, while the road formation is here, so it's very wide. But for this bit, there was always a plan to do a block of 3 units basically, or whatever you want to call it. These are like a single ones. Here it would make sense to build one building but with 3 units, and then utilize up to being able to build up the road reserve. This is still enough space to park.
So what zone are you seeking?
I'm not seeking in a particular zoning. I agree that rezoning this residential makes sense as long as we can utilize the boundary requirements and impermeable surface requirements of the existing zoning on this section of block plan. And they ended up between the cracks because it's not really a district plan issue itself, but it affects.
So it's proposed residential zone?
Yeah.
And you don't want it to be residential zone?
I
You want it to be residential
do
zone?
want it to be residential zone, but I want the land use consent that allows me to do with this particular section.
I think you're at the wrong hearing.
I am allowed to do.
This is a hearing about rezoning. All district plan rules.
Yeah.
We can't give you a land use consent.
No, that's fine. Yeah, my submission ended up, that submission ended up with.
Yeah, sure, okay.
So I will try.
What's the activity you want to do on that land?
But what's to develop it for residential?
I want to build residential, I want to build 3 residential units in one block.
Have the control to them.
And I want to be able to build up to, because of the. I want to be able to build.
I think the council officer wants to help us out here. So.
Can I just offer some clarification? Under the proposed district plan, there's a multi-unit rule for the general residential zone, which would allow multiple units on a res site.
So it's only the zone, the road boundary that I need the land use consent for.
Sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to with the road boundary. Oh, so if there'd be a setback within that.
Well, because on this particular property, the road formation is 6 meters away from the boundary. So we need to be allowed to build up to the boundary, not 3 meters away.
That sounds like a land use.
It's a land use.
Well, I understand. I'll give you this. I'll give you the steer now that I don't think we can solve that.
No, that's fine.
I don't know. But yeah, thanks.
I don't know if I can contribute anything else to the IFRS.
The council officers might be able to clarify what you can and can't do. That might be of some assistance.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Oh, okay, is that any more properties?
No, that was in the first three.
It's only if I can add anything further to either one, but Alan is relatively familiar with.
Yeah, no,
what we
we're
went through 3 years ago.
thankfully we have Alan with us. So he'll be able to fill in some gaps.
Yep. So is there a surfboard out at Agapara if we go for?
Sorry?
Is there a surfboard available if we go for a site visit?
No, I'm not a keen.
We'll do our nice walking. We might have to use Felicity's. Okay, hey, thanks very much for your attendance. You were waiting there patiently for the turn and the last submitted today, so thank you very much.
And we can show where the sites are. They north.
Oh, yes. We're going to be doing a trip up north on Friday, so we can probably swing by a couple of your properties on the way at Cooper's Beach.
Yeah. Because I live next to this development here. So.
You can drive right up.
Yeah, we could swing by.
If you let me know.
Friday's becoming a big day though.
Yeah.
Can't be.
If you give me 20 minutes notice, I can meet you and show you around it.
Yeah. We'll be in touch because it'll be early Friday morning, I think. We'll probably want to swing by first. But we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Okay. Unless council officers want me to clarify anything, I'm more than happy to adjourn for the day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's already feeling like a long hearing. It's only 2.5 days.
Oh, I don't know. Somebody turned the thermostat up. It's really.
It's actually turned off. Yeah.
Right.
And on that note, I think we'll.
It was on to
Kerikeri.
start when I turned it off, like I said, after 10 minutes. I'm in trouble. We can fight about this later. Tuia ki te rangi e tu nei, tuia ki te papa e hora nei, tuia ki te ringa tangata ka rongo te pō, ka rongo te ao, ki te whai ao, ki te tū whai pō, ka pōa, ka awatea, ka marama iho nei, ti hei, mō reo.
Thank you. I will stop the recording.